Welcome to The Watching Dead, the officially unofficial podcast for The Walking Dead on AMC. I'm Jim.
And I'm Aaron.
We can find everything we do at baldmove.com because we are part of the Bald Move Network. You have a little something you want to talk about before we get into the recap today, so I'll pass it over to you.
Just wanted to pimp the t-shirts one more time. We don't have that many Walking Deads left. Go to our e-commerce site at baldmove.spreadshirt.com. You can get two sweet t-shirt designs. One is the I Crossbow Daryl Dixon t-shirts, and the other is the Crouching Redneck Hidden Badass concept design. It's Rick and it's Daryl, and it's designed by a comic book artist, and they're fighting hordes of zombies. It's really badass. My description's not doing it justice. Baldmove.spreadshirt.com. We actually got some...
It's pretty sweet.
We got some feedback saying that maybe we can get it on some premium shirts. So we might have a balls to the wall. Obviously going to be more expensive than the $15 that the current shirt is. But if you're willing to pay $25 to get it on a really nice performance tee, we're going to have that offering too. So check it out at
we made
Bald
some
Move.
T-shirts for ourselves one year to go to PAX, and we really splurged and got the nice expensive ones.
Yeah, the
limited edition.
The one was the one that was my favorite was the bamboo performance T-shirt. That freaking thing felt and performed amazing. But again, baldmove.spreadshirt.com. Check it out.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get right into the recap. It's season 3, episode 15. It's called "This Sorrowful Life." Interesting title for this episode.
Right off of the comic books.
That more. Oh, is it?
Yeah. They took it right off of the. I believe it was a name of the series because they go in 6 episode arcs or 6 comic arcs.
Mm-hmm.
So
talking about the trades.
Yeah, it's a trade back.
Okay.
Trade paperback.
So it opens on Rick telling Daryl and Herschel that
You're just going in this raw dog. We're not going to talk about our opinions or what we thought.
Oh yeah. All right. What's your opinion of this episode?
It started off slow, but I got to say, the last 3/4 of the show were one of the strongest Walking Deads that I can think of. Yeah,
it's all due to the interaction of the Dixon brothers, man. I love these guys when they're both on screen.
And I got to give credit where credit's due to Michonne. I don't know where she came out of her shell, or whether it's self-preservation or what, but her interaction with Merle was compelling.
Yeah. I actually made a note about their relationship. It's a weird one, and it's, for The Walking Dead, surprisingly nuanced. There's kind of a hate-respect relationship here, where Michonne hates Merle, but Merle kind of respects Michonne in some way now, after he's seen everything that she's done.
Yeah, it feels to me like the relationship that professional soldiers have on two separate sides of a very bitter conflict.
Yeah. There was a lot of that in, what's that called? Band of Brothers that I recently watched. There was specifically a scene where the guys are sharing cigarettes. Two groups of soldiers from opposite sides are sharing cigarettes while they meet along the road. And you're right, it feels a lot like that. But yeah, that super strong stuff there from them, and I felt like the stuff that they did back at the prison was good. I mean, it wasn't certainly the focus of the episode, although I'm glad that it wasn't, and I'm glad kind of that we didn't go back to Woodbury right away and just see Andrea get bad things done to her.
Splitting this 3-way, I think, would have destroyed the flow of the show.
Yeah, definitely.
And the cast.
And, I mean, this is just like what happened in Clear, where we kind of got away from the prison, focused on a couple characters, and it turned out to be a really strong episode.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of did the same formula here.
Kind of feels like the governor maybe works in smaller doses than they've been giving him out.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what's your rating of this one?
I would give it a 9.
A 9. Wow. See, I gave the last one a 9 because I really liked the horror stuff that they did. I'm going to give this one an 8.5 simply because it didn't have all those elements that I really loved in it. It was a little more straightforward of an episode, but it did have the emotional punch of the Dixon brothers. So it gets a high score.
Cool.
All right, let's get into the recap. It starts off with Rick telling Daryl and Herschel that he's decided they're giving Michonne over to the governor. Daryl and Herschel are not feeling great about it. Herschel limps away on his crutches. And Rick tries to rationalize it to Daryl by saying that they can avoid losing someone else if they do this, which doesn't make a lot of sense because they're losing someone by doing this.
No, and it's really stupid. I'm just extremely disappointed that Rick thinks that the governor will keep his word with everything he knows about him. To me, this is one of the biggest betrayals of Rick Grimes' character this show has perpetrated yet, and it's done a few. And
I totally agree with that. When I saw this for the first time, watching it live, I tweeted out, because right after this there's the section where Merle says, "I don't know who you are," or whatever. "I don't know who I am." I was like, yeah, we don't either. We don't know who Rick is. This is dumb. I was just like, none of this stuff that's happening makes any sense.
I was approaching livid with this episode 15 minutes in. And it
15 minutes. Wow.
Yeah, it completely took a J-turn, I guess, or U-turn into awesomeness. Obviously, because it clawed its way back up to a 9. But I was really like, I cannot believe... It's one thing for him to have a moment of doubt at the end of last episode, but for him to carry that forward and be like, oh, God, we just got to kowtow to the governor's demands, that is just, that's beta Rick and stupid Rick on top of it. Not only is it weak, it's stupid.
So right off the bat, idiot survivor of the week right there for believing the governor's lies. And the thing is, he doesn't even believe the governor because he said last episode, I know that he's just going to kill everybody anyway. Like, he said those words.
I know.
And yet he still decides to do it. I did not get any of this that was happening at the beginning here. Also, they've got a guy here, Merle, on one hand, who they let stay at the prison, who is actively harmed, has kidnapped 2 of the members of their group and beaten and tortured one of them. They let him stay, no problem. But then Michonne, who's actively helped the group and killed a bunch of zombies for them and done nothing to harm them, really, they turn her over to the governor. That makes no sense. Ugh.
No. And what really makes no sense is I was waiting for Merle at some point to say, as soon as you give Michonne up, the governor's just going to kill everyone. I've seen this play out. I've killed 16 different men in his service. I know how this is going to end. None of that happened. Again, I just feel like anytime a majority of the listeners are going to have the same thought, and judging by our Facebook thread and some of our feedback and you and I experiences, this is a thought that people are going to have on watching this season, that it's the writer's job to address that. You've got to lampshade it. You got to draw attention to it. You got to show me that you've given it thought. This is just like, whistling Dixie and putting your hands in your pockets and, looking up at the sky and waiting for the awkward moment to pass. Okay.
Yeah.
And, I get that that's what's happening on the show, but it just irritates me that, Merle didn't say, in addition to Rick being weak for not doing this thing with Michonne, also, oh yeah, this is probably going to work anyway. Someone just acknowledge it. That's what I want.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder how much of that is the writers just not acknowledging it, and how much of it is Merle's character actually thinking that he may be able to smooth things over. Because later on, when he's walking Michonne down the street, he kind of says, well, I'll take you back, and maybe the prison will still stand, and I can be accepted back into Woodbury. Like, maybe there's a chance. And she says that's an awful lot of hopes, which he agrees with, but he's still willing to kind of follow that hope a little bit at that point. So maybe he does kind of think that it's the case that he could turn over Michonne and it would be okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I gotta love the man for what he did at the end of the episode, and that also helped them tidy up a couple other kind of plot points as far as, Rick's group standing a fighting chance and whatnot. But it just feels like maybe they could have dug a little deeper and gotten to a little bit a better believable situation for these guys to be acting the way they do. My other thought, and this is kind of a random one that I'm going to interject here, is are we? I'm starting to doubt that Mazzara lost his job on the strength of these final episodes, because
they seem pretty strong.
None of them were anywhere near the weaker parts of season 2. I just feel like that this is starting to feel like creative differences between the network and Kirkman and and Mazzara, and that kind of has me scared, because they kept the guy who might be contributing to some of this stupid plotting, which is Kirkman. Because
why do you say he might be the one?
Well, I don't know, because I might be in hot water for some comic book guys. I've read the whole series. I'm here to tell you, it is not the great American novel all the way through. There are some things that don't make sense. I think, all by and large, it hits home runs, but there's a lot of things that, just flat out wouldn't work on a television show. And I hope that there's a realization going forward on that. So anyway.
And I think you got a guy on one hand, Glenn Mazzara, who is experienced at this and at creating characters and telling stories. And then you got the other guy who just kind of started up his own comic book and decided, hey, I'm going to write this story. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to take any of the credit for the character development that we have seen away from Mazzara and put it onto Kirkman's shoulders in that scenario, I think. And I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do by any means. I mean, shit, I couldn't do it. I couldn't jump in and write this show. No way. But, I mean, you got to give Mazzara some credit for the stuff that has gone right.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's move on. Second scene, we're taking a little time here. Merle's tearing apart his mattresses, looking for drugs. Rick comes up and asks him to help capture Michonne, and Merle kind of questions why he would do something like that. Or basically tells him he doesn't have the stones to do something like that. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have the spine for it. Really good interaction here. I liked that Merle was kind of Rick's conscience here, like telling him who he really was, whereas Rick wasn't wanting to see it.
Yeah, I actually thought one of the strongest parts of this episode was there were a lot of good back and forths. A lot of times there's some sermonizing that, main character will give, and the other character just sits there and takes it and kind of like slack-jawed. But the multiple instances of someone delivering like a very cutting analysis and the other secondary character being like, oh, yeah, well, fuck you, here's your problem. And being dead, have them be both dead to right and making intelligent comments. So, Rick opened up with, do you even understand why the choices you make? And Merle's like, yeah, I don't get me, but I know you, and I know what you can and can't do, and being right. And I really enjoyed that aspect of the interplay.
Yeah, I like that moment in the conversation, because a lot of the times it's harder to see the reasons behind what you're doing as opposed to the reasons behind what other people are doing. Mm-hmm. And that kind of shows up here. I mean, Merle is a guy who, yeah, he's a bad guy in a lot of ways, but in some ways he has this underlying heart to him, the same as Daryl does, and it just hasn't been pulled out as effectively as Daryl's has.
Right, right.
And we obviously see that there at the end of the episode. But we actually got go ahead.
I think busting the brothers up was probably the best thing to happen to Daryl, because, in previous circumstances when they'd get into a group where they'd have to get along, maybe Merle or Daryl would feel bad about whatever situation, but they could talk themselves back into kind of middle fingers to the world philosophy. Whereas, when it's just Daryl and Rick's group, he kind of had to learn the work and get along with people, which I thought he did a very good job articulating later on, where he's like, look, you need people. You can't do this alone anymore. Yeah. Which is, we'll talk more about that when we get to it.
Okay, fair enough. We got an email from Jake O. from Wisconsin, who wrote in to basically tell us that when he calls him Officer Friendly, he says you're cold as ice, Officer Friendly. That's a callback to season 1 where Rick handcuffed him to the pipe. That's the same thing he called him.
Uh-huh.
So I thought that was kind of cool. There's another callback that we'll get to when we get to it.
A lot of smart callbacks to season 1. The episode Clear was loaded full of them, and now we got some more here.
Yeah, and I like the subtlety that they use.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to the next scene where some of the survivors, including Michonne, are pulling razor wire out on the road in the yard. And Rick opens up the gate for them, and I don't know, they talk. I forget what happens exactly.
The point being there that the defensive fortification at the front gates, Glenn says, was Michonne. Rick says, hey, that's a good idea. And no, Daryl said, hey, yeah, it's Michonne's, with a significant look like, yeah, the sacrificial lamb we're about to give up.
Yep. And then we go back inside to Carol and Merle having a conversation. And this is one of those moments you were talking about of characters kind of cutting each other up and having this interesting back and forth. Carol asks Merle if he's with them. And Merle says he's here for his brother, and he kind of notices how much Carol has changed. And then she tries to kind of roll that back around on him and say, maybe you can change too. If I'm a late bloomer, maybe you can be too.
Exactly.
Really strong interaction. And, I mean, I like that they took this moment to really point out how much Carol has changed, because we don't see a lot of Carol on this show. She kind of gets put in the back seat compared to the people like Daryl and Merle, Rick and Ghost Lori, and things like that, as far as interactions with characters. But yeah, she is one of the most changed characters on the show. I mean, if you look at her from season 1, and I haven't gone back and watched it, but I know some of our listeners have because they've emailed about it. She's completely different. Her demeanor is entirely changed, and I like to see that.
Right. No, I totally co-sign that.
We go back to the outside of the prison, and Glenn's helping. Daryl's helping Glenn fortify a gate, and he tells him that Merle's going to make things right with him. But Glenn kind of recaps what Merle did to him, and what he did to Maggie, and basically tells Daryl that he's not the one that he needs to make it right with. Like, he cares less about himself than he does about Maggie.
And that was I don't think Daryl fully appreciated what a bastard Merle and the governor were to Glenn and Maggie until that point too.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of like, look, I understand you take, but it's kind of like, well, we're both sides of different sides of the same war, kind of, we're just following orders, and Glenn's like, yeah, well, in this case, he's the Nazis. So that was a war. That was a war crime, if that's true.
Yeah.
Also, I want to give credit to something I got last week from Ellis McD. Said, I was trying to describe Daryl's hairstyle, and I kept on describing her as Ramona Flowers from Scott Pilgrim Saves or Versus the World or whatever. And she said the proper description we're looking for is K-pop star hair.
Totally.
Korean pop star hair. And
completely.
that nailed it. Nailed it. So forevermore, he's got K-pop star hair until he fixes it.
And it's crazy when you go back and you watch season 1, the hairstyles. It's night and day, man.
Oh, yeah.
Night and day.
Yeah.
Daryl goes down to the utility room, and he finds his brother there. Merle pretends that he's looking for drugs, which is better than what he was actually doing down there, I guess. And he asks Daryl what he thinks about the plan for Michonne. Daryl gives the non-answer of whatever Rick says goes, just totally avoiding the question.
Which I'm kind of surprised. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Let me just finish up real quick. And Merle says that they need a bad guy like him to do their dirty work. Okay, go ahead.
The other thing, I'm kind of surprised no one, and obviously we haven't seen everything that transpired between Herschel, Rick, and Daryl, but I'm kind of surprised that no one has questioned Rick. I know he gave the whole the dictatorship speech, but he's been very weak this season too. I would just think that somebody would say, "Are you sure we're going to do this, man? Because the governor's crazy, blah, blah, blah. We need Michonne." It just feels like somebody would have done something more than just, hey, I'm following orders with this.
Yeah, the problem, I think, here is that Rick is the only guy who's talked to the governor. And I don't think Herschel and Daryl are going to say, hey, you're crazy, this guy's going to kill him anyway, if Rick thinks that there might be a chance. Because Rick has spoken with him. Rick has got a read on the guy.
Yeah.
Now, what he's not telling them is that Rick got the read that this guy's fucking crazy and is going to kill everyone.
Well, plus, I just feel like, I don't know. maybe I'm too colored by the skit we did, but I just feel like Rick totally fucked up that meeting. That's old history. I do want to say this about you can't do things without people anymore. That is true. But in this universe, it's a very damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because you could end up trusting the wrong guy like the governor and ends up in disaster. Or you could end up distrusting the wrong guy like Rick and it ends up disaster. Or like Rick did with Tyrese. You need people, but you need the right people. And how do you know who's right and who's wrong?
Yeah, there needs to be some vetting process.
That basically sums up issue 60 through 107 of The Walking Dead. How you need people. How do you trust the right people? How do you know who the right people are? How do you vet? How do you go through all this process? And I'm excited to see the show kind of put that forward as their mission statement this early.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we got a little bit of that with Michonne. We started at least questioning, like bringing up that topic with Michonne and with Merle this season.
Tyrese.
But I expect they will. Yeah, and Tyrese, and I expect they'll go further with that. If Rick hadn't been absolutely batshit crazy at the moment that he met Tyrese, maybe we would have explored that.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll see more of that, I'm sure. Merle wasn't only right about that, actually. He was right about a couple things. They kind of do need a bad guy to do their dirty work because there's certainly going to be dirty work that needs to be done in this scenario in one way or another. And they are doing the exact same thing that Merle's doing here, that Merle did with Maggie and Glenn. They're snatching somebody up and delivering him to the governor.
Yep.
Surprise, surprise. And a really touching moment here when at the very end of the scene, Daryl just grabs his brother's arm, says, "I just want my brother back." And Merle almost busts out crying. He's like, "Get out of here, man."
Very effective.
I don't want to hear that. Yeah. Good stuff. Next scene, Herschel's reading the Bible with his daughters.
It's clear, like a lot of people had question about why he's getting the phone. It is clear by the end of the episode that he was getting that for The Wire.
No. He was trying to stop Rick from being crazy. Thought if I take this guy's phone, he won't be able to answer it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, you're right. Herschel's reading the Bible with his daughters while Rick scavenges for cables, and he changes his mind about turning over Michonne when he sees Ghost Lori looking on.
Pregnant Ghost Lori this time.
Pregnant Ghost Lori. We got a good email about that we'll get to. But
all right.
Yeah, pregnant Ghost Lori.
I also like the thing. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say I like this scene, and I like having Herschel reading whatever passage he's reading over the images of Rick, kind of questioning what he's doing, and having Lori look on and giving him the big frowny face. Like, that's why he changes his mind. He knows that this is not what the man he was would do and what Lori would expect of him.
Yeah, and I also like the double meaning that when Herschel looked at his daughters and said, "What I wouldn't do to keep you two safe," is very Meatloafian in that he was just realizing this is a thing I wouldn't do to keep you two safe.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, damn near clever writing for the show.
For sure. Also, Lori, a more effective character in death than she ever was in life.
Totally cosign.
Okay, moving on. Merle tricks Michonne into going into one of the deeper parts of the prison with him and then knocks her out and ties her up.
This was a low point for me before this episode started pulling out. I'm like, Michonne would just trust Merle like that. Turn her back on him, that kind of... I don't know what the writers could have done because they needed this to happen, but maybe her... I don't know, like Michonne trying to... I just feel like Michonne wouldn't turn her back on Merle that fast. No possible way.
No,
Just
I totally agree
consistent with her character. But they needed it to happen, so it did.
Yeah. And I don't know why they do things like this. There's 1,000 different ways. I know they needed it to happen quickly because they just wanted to get it done and get out of there. But they could have done it any other way.
Yeah.
A way that's more consistent with her character.
Yeah. And I was about to rattle off 3 different ways they could have done it, but that's kind of boring podcasting. So
there you go. Get in and get out.
Yep.
Merle walks Michonne down the road and preaches to her about Rick not being able to get the job done. And so he stepped up and had to do it. So he uses her sword to chop off a zombie's head, and he enjoys it. Definitely enjoys it. He's been itching for a chance to use that blade, you can tell.
Who hasn't? I mean, honestly, that would be an upside of a zombie apocalypse, that you could, take the tops and faces off of zombies with a katana and just kind of see how badass it feels.
Yeah, Merle definitely felt very much like the audience there in that scenario.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of already talked about their relationship. This is where it kind of struck me, what kind of weird relationship they have, but talked about it, so let's move on. Rick's looking for Merle and Michonne, and instead he finds Daryl and tells him that the plan is off. Daryl takes him down to the room where Merle was and finds signs of what his brother did with Michonne. And Rick decides to go after him, but Daryl says he'll go because Rick can't track for shit. And I quote...
Yep, good point.
Can't track for shit. I thought that was hilarious.
Plus, he
right to your face. You can't track for shit. I'm going.
Well, when you speak the truth like that, you've got that, almost godlike authority. Like, I'm a tracker, you ain't nothing. So, this is his personal business. I got even if Rick was a fair tracker, I still think Daryl would want to do this alone.
Yeah, and assuming Rick does find Merle and Michonne, he's not the guy to talk Merle down. It's going to be Daryl.
Yep.
So Daryl knows that. So now let's take roll here in the prison. Rick, Beth, Maggie, Glenn, Herschel, Carl, Carol. Three. Count them. Three major badasses are gone.
Don't forget the zombie baby.
Oh yeah, little ass kicker. Forgot about that.
Zombie Judith.
But 3 of the biggest ass kickers are gone now because of Rick's plan.
Yes.
Like, that's something he didn't take into account, is the fact that we're going to have to deliver these guys, and assuming this plan doesn't go smoothly, they're going to take out some of the best badasses we have.
That's one of the many reasons this is a stupid-ass plan.
Yeah. Unless they were going to have Beth deliver Michonne. That would have been awesome. She's the most expendable.
Yeah, but also completely incapable of doing anything.
Yeah.
Restraining Michonne, capturing Michonne, making Michonne do anything that Michonne doesn't want to do.
Fair enough. Next scene, Merle spots a car and stops to inspect it. Michonne tells him that he's not a bad man, and Merle disagrees. Merle's body count disagrees, actually.
Yeah, but I like her point that a bad man, truly evil, doesn't feel any of that weight of those deaths, light as a feather. And you can see increasingly throughout the episode now that Merle, first of all, you wonder how much drugs and alcohol he had available at Woodbury, because he kind of acts like he's coming off of something, and also just being, away from the governor, away from someone evil, seeing evidence of people that are relatively good-hearted and pulling for each other despite having nothing. Like, you wonder what a guy like Rick would do with Woodbury.
It's interesting, actually. Were you going to say more?
I was just going to say, you can see that this is starting to affect him. He's starting to realize, maybe I didn't have to do this. And, doing some self-reflection that a truly evil man wouldn't do.
I also thought there was a moment of that when Rick first approached him about capturing Michonne and giving her over. It seemed to me like Merle was... He was telling Rick that he's not the guy to do this, but at the same time, Rick was suggesting it, and I got a hint that maybe Merle thought, well, here's a place that I could kind of change and for the lack of a better word, repent. Mm-hmm. And then he had realized when Rick approached him about that, this is not the place for that. And there was maybe a bit of remorse in his tone and his look there at the end of that.
That's a solid take. That's a solid take.
Yeah, I feel like it's not what they were going after in this episode, but it's something that I kind of placed in there, I think.
Yeah, it works. And it makes sense.
Next scene, Glenn approaches Herschel to ask for his blessing to marry Maggie, and Herschel gives it. Nice little scene between Stephen and... I don't know Herschel's real name. What is his actor's name?
I have no idea.
Okay. Anyway, so it's good to see the callback to The Watch. That's a season 2 callback where Herschel...
the keys to Maggie's vagina.
Yep. And the keys to Glenn's ass. He's been carrying that watch for how long now? Up his ass? And that's the only place it doesn't get destroyed.
But who's going to be searching?
No, I'm just saying.
Scott Wilson.
Scott, yeah.
Scott Wilson is the actor that plays Herschel.
Yeah.
I will
great
say
performances
that
all around.
And I will say that this in this zombie apocalypse scenario, this was very goddamn romantic. And I can't remember the last time I saw Herschel smile genuinely. You know, so anytime you see that, anytime you can bring that out of Herschel, it's something good.
Yeah. Let's go back a second to where he's reading the Bible to his daughters. In season 2, he had his crazy breakdown. He went to the bar and he started drinking. Did he obviously didn't give up religion at that point, right? He didn't have any sudden deconversion or anything.
He made a show of that he had, but you just never know.
I thought so.
And I think that anyone in this circumstance, or any circumstance like this, war, a massive pandemic, even if you have strong faith, you're going to have a somewhat complicated relationship with God.
Definitely. Yeah.
And you're going to have points where you feel like your faith is stronger, and you're going to have points where you feel like your faith is going to crumble. I kind of like that. It feels realistic to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. Merle ties up Michonne to a post while he hotwires a car, and he gets it running, but he accidentally sets off the alarm, and zombies flood the area and nearly eat both of them. Really cool scene here.
Yeah, lots of tension because, honestly, I didn't know what the show had in store for either of these characters. Well, honestly, from spoiler images, I knew Merle's arc was terminal. I just didn't know when and where. And could see it's like they did a nice job of actually setting up tension, and suddenly I find myself caring for these two characters. So kudos to the writers for making me care about a dyed-in-the-wool racist and a mute, but they somehow pulled that off.
Yeah, and they pulled it off like Michonne pulled off a zombie's head with her wire.
So I'm very curious about what you're giving Zombie Kill of the Week to, or who you're giving it to.
I think it's pretty obvious that I can't give it to that because that's not a kill.
Really?
No.
Yeah, you're right. The heads are still alive, right?
Heads are still going to roll. And
pretty
Nash.
fucking cool, though.
It was very cool, yeah. At first, I was like, okay, there's no way that she could possibly pull a zombie's head off with a wire. But, I mean, A, this is a crazy, unrealistic horror genre show. And B, she had, what was the thing that her fingers were attached to? It was like it reminded me of those, those things where you kind of, these kids' toys where you kind of change the angle of a string and you have two people hold each side and the thing kind of flows down it. Like there's this thing with a hook on it and it's kind of like a zip line. It reminded me of one of those.
No fucking clue what you're talking about.
All right. I think it might be called like a zip it or something. I don't know. But it reminded me of one of those. But she's like tied up to this Chinese finger trap. It's weird. But yeah, so she maybe got a little more leverage and didn't rip her own fingers off.
Yeah.
I did notice that. Well, okay. First of all, the katana shot, just slicing the zombie's face off, was freaking awesome.
That was pretty sweet.
The boot stomp on the head was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
None of those get it.
No, I think I know what you're getting. What you're going to give it to now.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if you're going to give it to this or the climax, and now I'm pretty. My money's all in on the climax.
Well, I think it might be the only other zombie kill. Well, no, there are some that I guess we see when Merle does his plan. Anyway, I thought it was funny that Merle's got some manners. He opened the car door for Michonne. I guess she couldn't have done that herself, but
true.
Yeah. Not such a bad guy after all. Opening doors.
You've taken someone prisoner and basically handcuffed him. It's the least you can do.
Yeah.
Help him out in and out of your murder car.
There were some great zombies, too. The one that almost got Merle in the car was fantastic. It looked bloated and disgusting.
Yeah.
Like it was ready to just pop with decay gases.
The variety of zombies they're able to bring to the show is admirable. Greg Nicotero, hats off.
Yeah, he's the man when it comes to that.
He also directed this episode. Did you know that?
I did know that, yeah. And it was produced by the guy who's taken over as showrunner, Scott Gimple.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Produced or written by?
I think it was produced.
Okay.
Might have been written by. Who knows? Somebody
the
Gimpel. We go back to Merle and Michonne in the car after they've kind of driven off from there. And Michonne tries to convince Merle that this could have been a new beginning for him. But he's not buying it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. The fact that Rick came to him with this like evil henchman task was the proof that he thought he needed to see that nothing's changed. This is who I am. This is my role.
Yeah, and I think you hit on kind of the bigger point here is, and I mean we might as well move in. Well, no, Glenn has his own thing first, but we'll talk about it when we get there. I thought it was interesting here that she kind of plays the Daryl card and says no one's going to mourn you, not even your brother. Daryl's got a new family, and that to me is like the crux of why Merle starts to change his mind here. I mean, he's really the only thing that he loves in this world is his brother, right? I mean, everybody else can go to hell.
That's true.
Except for Daryl. And that's the reason he's even back at the prison in the first place.
Yep.
So then we go back to the prison, and in what has to be the most disturbing moment I've seen yet, Glenn tears the wedding ring off of a walker.
Yeah, he goes ring shopping.
Yeah.
This episode is hard on fingers.
It was, man. It was. The finger count in this episode is high.
Yeah, there are some perks to the zombie apocalypse, man. Cubic zirconium my ass. You just go find a well-to-do looking zombie and rip a ring off.
Yep. It's a really short scene there. Then we go back to Michonne and Merle. And Michonne asks, after that 16 men body count comment that he made, if he's ever killed anyone before meeting the governor. And she tries to convince him again that they can both go back. Merle says he can't, but he stops the car and sets her free. So he's obviously had a change of heart here.
And this was one of the highlights of the episode. I thought this was a really excellent scene. Both of them making solid points. Both of them, showing some vulnerability. And ultimately, it felt kind of inevitable that this is what's going to happen. And I almost wonder if Merle didn't have this in the back of his head when he first took off from the prison. Like he was he was waiting to see if Michonne would save her own skin by talking her way out of the thing.
It's interesting because he does say when he takes her sword and kills the guy or kills the walker, and she says, "I was waiting. I want my sword back before I escape." He says it might go down that way.
I know, right?
So there is kind of a little foreshadowing there.
And I just feel like what Daryl said to him in the prison really affected him. So I don't know whether it's conscious or unconscious, or this is something that just Michael Rooker, Alan Sepinwall in his review said that he's one of the best actors in the series. I don't think that's much up for debate, but he's always good at doing the most with the little that he's given. And I could totally see him taking the script and thinking, really the wheels spinning and him being able to get all that onto the screen. Goddamn, he's going to be missed. I mean, I don't know that I missed the character Merle, but I miss the character of Merle in Michael Rooker's hands. And if we'd have got another season or two of the Dixon Boys, that I think would have been something special potentially.
Yeah, you also have to consider maybe Michael Rooker knows the character better than the writers do, and that they could have botched it if they tried to drag it out. I mean, we've seen what happens when they drag things out.
And clearly one of the strongest things in the show is that literally no one is safe. I mean, I'm pretty sure Rick and Carl have the two strongest character shields on the show, but everybody else, like I don't feel safe about Maggie. I don't feel safe about Glenn. I don't feel safe about even Daryl. I mean, I've talked about my growing dread as we approach seasons 4 and 5 that I think that's going to be one of the stomach punches we've got to look forward to.
Yeah, I hope they do some interesting things with Coleman because he seems like he could be a pretty strong actor.
But even then,
based on what we've seen in The Wire and on this show even.
I would not be shocked if he doesn't make it out this season. That's not spoiler. That's not a thing. That's just I could totally see them bringing on a veteran actor just to give us oh, you thought Tyrese was going to be cool? Boom, he's dead.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's got me worried. I totally agree that this is an excellent scene, and I think there's a lot wrapped up in it. especially when she's trying to convince Merle that he can go back, and he just says he can't. He can't go back. And I don't know. I think there's a couple of reasons he can't go back. A, he can't go back because I think one of the things he's talking about here is he can't take